Welcome to the Mike Meyers Ask Mike Anything. This is the Wednesday edition of the AMA. The goal of this AMA is to provide those of us who are isolated by the coronavirus an opportunity to continue our studies on our CompTIA certifications. In order to make this work, what you have to do is you ask me questions and I answer them, okay? So to ask me questions, just type them here into the chat window. Let me look over here. In the chat window here on YouTube, if you notice in the upper left-hand corner of the chat window, it says Top Chat. Go ahead and change that to Live Chat if you haven't already. It kind of takes the algorithm out of the questions a little bit. So we start here at 2 o'clock Central Daylight Time, and we will go until 3 o'clock Central Standard, We started here at 2 o'clock Central Standard Time in Houston, Texas, USA. Yeehaw! And we will go till 3 o'clock Central Standard Time or until the questions run out. So do keep that in mind, that we only stay up as long as the questions are running long. We are giving away vouchers here, so do be aware that we'll be giving away one CompTIA voucher today. We will also be giving away a bundle of our ebook of whatever you want and the accompanying practice questions, better known as the Total Tester. So that is all here for you. So how exciting is all that stuff? All right. I'm just looking through. See, anytime you see me look to the right like this, what's happening is I'm checking the chat window. With me today are Dave Rush and Andrew Hutz. These guys work for Total Seminars, and you'll see they're in blue, and they can also help you out on just about anything you want. So I always like to stall for a few minutes right at the very beginning, mainly because, schmoozles. I like to stall at the very beginning, mainly because I like to make sure we have enough people here. And for some reason, everybody likes to show up 10 minutes late, which is fine, you know. All right. So I made a groovy little presentation, and I now have to try to find it very quickly because I forgot to bring it down here. So let's get this coming in. Yeah, so this is a quick little PowerPoint presentation on a question we had. This was last week. It was actually week before last. Somebody was asking about describing mGRE versus Mpls. And so I did a little research on it finally this week to get the answer, because you know, I've got the easy answer and then there's the better answer kind of a thing. And it ended up creating an even bigger issue. So we're going to have an interesting PowerPoint presentation today on this particular topic. So let me get my little PowerPoint up and cooking. Is it running? Looks like it's ready now. I'm happy bunch. There we go. We'll just let that close up then and let that close up. And okay, and now we're back. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is let me get a quick rundown through the questions and see if anything's particularly interesting happening here. I'm sure there's lots of interesting. From over 30 minutes ago, Manpreet Kaur, I ordered your A+ book and want to study that for A+ exam. Okay. Are there 1001 and 1002 together? Yes. Should I study all sequence or 1001 first and then 1002? I like to teach them all at once, and then I take the tests literally one after the other in the same sitting. I'll take one at 9 o'clock, and I'll take the next one at like 10:30. I'd probably give myself a little more time than that. Like 9 o'clock and then 11 o'clock. That gives me a 15-minute stretch between courses, between taking the exams. Vegas Brent is agreeing with me. That's good. Pastries. What are we talking about? Pastries. Come for the trout almond deans. Dave Rush, you're a strange man sometimes, brother. All right, I'm assuming we're up and cooking. Nobody's actually said anything awful to me yet. All right, nope, there we go. So we got some stuff. Okay, all right. So what I'm doing right now is let me just run through and make sure I've got all the questions covered. Andre Wilshaw, greetings all, just saying hi. Airport Wi-Fi, and I know that feeling. TD Washington, good to see you, man. It's okay. Mohammed's here again, good to see you, Mohammed. Mokhtar won't. Mokhtar. Why does Mokhtar ring a bell to me? Obviously, other than being your name. Oh. Watch a movie called Galaxy Quest. All right, so it looks like we've got a pretty quiet day today. That's going to happen. Andrew Hutz, Mike, did you see the new Apple stuff from yesterday's event? No, I got turned on to it by Michael Smyer of our office. There's the new M1 improved or superb or M1 something like that. My problem is that this new ARM processor, the M1 processor that Apple's been talking about, and they showed that it had benchmarks that were smoking like a AMD Threadripper. Not smoking them, but keeping it about pace to pace. There's been more research done that the benchmarks they use were probably a little on the unfair side. But when are benchmarks not a little on the unfair side? That's been that way for 40 years. Why change today? Vegas Brent, I've always found doing things others aren't willing to do a successful strategy. What are some areas in IT that others aren't as willing to do? What do people tend to avoid? Generally in IT, what I find people tend to avoid are more of the social situations that most techs really would like to prefer to work at home by themselves. So when you say, what do people, and by people, we're going to talk about IT technicians, not want to do? For the most part, they don't want to interact with human beings. And that's why good techs who can actually talk make great teachers. That's why good techs who can actually not be afraid of people make amazing salespeople. The most money you can make in IT, the most money you can make in IT is in sales. There's no exception to that. I guess very high-level management. But even most of the high-level managers usually tend to come from sales. So sales would be another big thing too. Interfacing with customers as an engineer. So why don't you just let the engineers bring the plans to the... Okay, I'm quoting another funny movie called Office Space. I'm a people person. I got people skills. So, things like that would tend to be the places where nerds tend to fall down. Anytime you have lots of meetings, nerds tend to fall apart in meetings. I do. I literally start humming nursery rhymes in my head when I hear people we're having a meeting, and it's just like... So there's some ideas for you to consider. Nifty glowing cheese Brittany. I'm sorry, Brittany, you're always going to be nifty glowing cheese. That's it. 202. All right. So the other thing that happens if I'm looking off to one side for a minute, folks, is because the weird way this thing scrolls. I have been watching some absolutely terrifying videos. And when I say terrifying, I mean terrifying. These are people who are abandoned mine explorers. Silver mines from like the 1880s in Nevada or California deserts that nobody's been in. These people are walking around in these, Just do mine, M-I-N-E, Mine Explorer on YouTube. I was just like, oh my gosh. People squeeze into these things, and it's like so deep and it's collapsing. There's pieces of dynamite laying around. Oh, don't step on that, Bob. It's like, get out. Whatever. Can't even watch the stream. What's wrong? Nikash Nandu, good to see you, Nikash. Solomon Cho, good to see you. My question for the day, Mr. G. What is the latest piece of equipment, gadget that you bought recently? I think I've already shown this on here, but so I replaced my Galaxy Fold with the new Galaxy Fold 3. So I got this, but then I couldn't decide, so I also got the Galaxy Flip. I know, I make too much money. I know. Whoops. So I'm still kind of playing with the Flip versus the Fold. And I'm telling you, I think the Fold is winning by a long shot. But that's all I got. Michael Smyer and I are taking a look at our system we're going to be building now that the new A+ has been announced. If you weren't here on Monday, new A+ is going to be rolling out theoretically on April 20th. We will not be ready that fast. No one's going to be ready that fast. But hopefully we'll have some products out. Well, the old exam will retire August 31st, 2022, and we will have all the A+ products out for that. So until then, just take the old exam. Chris Dougherty. Justin Pence. Can you explain if someone is running a 1 gigabit internet and their network has, let's say, 20 devices? Are all these devices going to run at 1 gigabit speed on a perfect day, or is it allocated speed? So nothing allocated. That's not a good word to use, and that's okay. That's why we're here. So what you're looking at is what I think a better term to use would be shared bandwidth. And the answer is that you're going to share that bandwidth. Let me make sure I got the question right. Someone is running a 1 gigabit internet, the entire internet at 1 gigabit. Okay, again, that's fine. We can use that as a relative thing. If everything else is running at 1 gigabit, then in general, you can handle a typical switch can handle. This is very much a rule of thumb. It's not, I can't make it absolute. One internet connection, if everything else was equal, I mean, you're running 1 gigabit local area network, the bandwidth on your router between you and the 1 gigabit Ethernet internet can handle 1 gig. See where I'm coming from? All this builds up. In general, you can handle about 20 systems on that one shared 1 gigabit connection and be okay. That immediately starts to disappear once you start bringing in streamed high definition video, and that's the killer, really more than anything else, is high definition video that's streamed can chew that up. I have in my house, I have a 1 gigabit internet provider. That doesn't mean everybody else is gigabit on the internet. It just means from my fiber terminal up to their fiber terminal is 1 gigabit. And within there, my internet at my house is so fantastic. Like, you know how you guys watch YouTube and you double click on a video and it's got a moment while it's trying to figure things out and you don't even think about it? Me, I watch that 2 or 3 seconds. I'm like, oh, come on, it's so slow. The problem is the question you asked was if the internet was 1 gigabit. So that means everything on the internet would be 1 gigabit. So you would have a 1 gigabit link to link, and individual computers don't really hit the internet that hard by themselves. Like 20 is a pretty rough number, but it would be less than half of that if they were trying to all stream at the same time or something like that. Okay. Nifty, this is Brittany again. This is at 2:04. Can you elaborate on the 4 levels of UAC, specifically about the levels in the middle? Oh God, okay. I do have a cheat note up, thanks to Dave Rush. So there's 4 levels in UAC. There's one that you literally, if you set it to its most restrictive, it will darken the background and then force you to type in your username and password for almost anything. So putting UAC at its most restrictive can be very irritating because you are constantly re-entering your username and password. Notify me, the next most restrictive, notify me only when programs, apps try to make changes to my computer. So in that case, what will happen is the background will darken as it always does with UAC, but it's only going to do this when programs or apps are trying to make changes to your computer itself. So that means UAC will still come up. Like if you type in format, UAC is going to pop, okay? But it's also going to pop for stuff like you install a program and it tries phoning home and things like that. So the UAC can be very handy at that third level. The second level is almost exactly the same thing. And it's notify me when programs, apps try to make changes to my computer, but do not dim my desktop. In other words, I'll make a pop-up that will come up saying, hey, this evilprogram.com that you're trying to install is phoning home. But the difference is that instead of darkening the screen, you can still just ignore it and just go back to clicking. You get the idea? You can't make that window disappear without dealing with the UAC, but unlike the third level where it darkens everything and you've got to deal with that screen, you can push it off to the side. Nobody would ever do that. So to me, the second and third levels of UAC are pretty much exactly the same. And then the lowest level of UAC means it just never does anything really. If you see any warning signs, it's not going to come from like where if a program's trying to do something naughty, you better hope that your firewall is ready to handle that. It probably will be. Because UAC at that level won't say anything at all. All right. Thank you, Dave Rush, for giving me those levels because I wouldn't have memorized them off the top of my head. I'd had to run them. Nikash Nandu at 206. How does ping relate to ICMP? Ping is ICMP, Internet Control Message Protocol. Ping isn't the only ICMP, but it's a big one. So just like websites use HTTP, which is a TCP protocol, ping uses the ICMP protocol. So hopefully that'll get you where you need to go. Alan Owens, did I mix up my gigabytes and my gigabits? I do that all the time. Saf Mo, good to see you, buddy. How are you? Doing all right? Nicholas Pinero, what's up, Mike? Me, I'm at 5'6". Scrolling, looking for questions. Nifty Glowing Cheese Brittany, can you talk about the UAC in Windows 10? I think I did. Syed, what kind of tea am I drinking? I'm drinking black tea. A little bit of milk, no sugar. Brett, taking my core tomorrow, my core 2 tomorrow. Good luck to you, Brett. Congratulations on core 1. Let us know how you did. Win, lose, or draw. Something going on in the background I'm not sure about. Chase at 214. What are some good tips for the Network Plus? I am taking mine next week. I guess the biggest single tip I could tell you is, number one, try to do the protocols. If you find yourself having trouble memorizing port numbers, then do it. You know, so many people are like, what's the port number for FTP? Well, why don't you go ahead and download an FTP client? There's like 1,000 of them. Don't just use the one that's built in your web browser. Every web browser has a built-in FTP client. But get Thunderbird or one of the popular standalone FTP clients, and then fire up Wireshark or run Netstat or something like that, just to watch those port numbers open up and shut down. That's the biggest thing. A lot of people come like, Mike, how do you give me a clue to help memorizing port numbers? And my answer is do them. It's that easy. Or like setting up encrypted email accounts. Do you know that's actually fairly easy to do in Gmail? Obviously, you won't be able to run Wireshark because Gmail is going to run this all through the browser, but it will configure for like encrypted SMTP and POP or IMAP, whatever you want to do. And it's just a fun way. Whip up some email address, make yourself a bogus Gmail account, which is trivial enough to do, and set it up for encryption. It's not that tricky. Also, do keep in mind, folks, that we do have a Discord channel. Well, actually, we don't have a Discord channel. My buddy, I think it's Siegfried Vanderwee, has the channel. We have no control over it. It's really up to Siegfried and how it goes, but he does a good job, so I don't mind advertising about it, and we do appreciate the work he does. But we do have a Discord channel. Check in the chat window, and you'll see a link for it. The Discord channel it's really starting to take off. It's good. It's a 24/7 kind of channel, all right? However, after the AMAs on Monday and Wednesday, and as well as Dave Rush's AMA on Friday, some of us will jump on there live. Like, we'll light up our cameras and our headsets, and it's a great way if you actually want to talk to somebody that you can talk to people. It's very, very convenient. Oh, for FTP, it's FileZilla. There's lots of FTP clients out there, but FileZilla is a good one. Logan Bennett, the great Mike Strami. I came up with that concept so quick. I'm always surprised so many people like it. It'll be in the next version of the A+2, which we're going to be starting to shoot pretty shortly. And yes, folks, we are going to be giving away both a practice questions today and a CompTIA voucher. Listen, before we get into this too much, I want to talk about these CompTIA vouchers. Understand that the only reason we're able to give away these vouchers is because CompTIA is extremely generous and give them to us to give away. Okay, we don't actually do anything other than send them some information and they take care of it. Folks, we have zero control over how long it takes CompTIA to send out these vouchers. And I've been told that there's some people who are getting a little bit pouty about this, and I don't know what to tell you other than we do everything right on our side. And we are nervous that if people start complaining to CompTIA, they'll stop giving out vouchers. So at this point in the game, if you don't have your vouchers, we're saying, I think Dave Rush was saying that 30 days might be a realistic amount of time. If you want to take a test tomorrow, then don't even bother trying to get a voucher from us because we won't be able to get it to you that quickly. It seems here in the US, Canada, that we can get them to you within a week or two, but please understand, these vouchers are worth many, many hundreds of dollars, and we love giving these away to you guys, but we can't guarantee the timeliness, especially if you're in a hurry. So you have been warned. Okay, so also, just because you guys are nice enough to show up, we have our usual bundle deal. We have a deal where you get any of my ebooks, so like the A+ ebook, say, and the A+ Total Tester, which is the 1001 and 1002 multiple choice questions. We call that a bundle. We have it for A+, Net+, Secret. I got all for all kinds of stuff. Bottom line is that just because you're nice enough to show up today, you get those bundles for 50% off. Look, folks, I'm already about the cheapest test bank out there. I'm certainly the cheapest of the good ones, and I intend to keep it that way. But you can get 50% off. All you have to do is go to www.totalsem.com, TOTALSEM.com. That's our website. Head over there, go over to the merchant area, and then pick up an A+ ebook and then A+ questions, or a Net+ ebook and Net+ questions. Whatever you want, all right? Put those two together, and then you get, when you check out, you have to just type in, oh, Dave Rush, what is it? At checkout, type in BELL, B-E-L-L, bell, as in ring a bell. You just type in Bell there and you get 50% off. Ridiculously good deal. Mokhtar wants me to do, could you please explain false positive, false negative, true positive, and true negative? All right, well, the trues are just the opposites of the falses. So when you're detecting for something, we could be looking for malware, we could be looking for a coronavirus in a patient. We have to go through some type of testing process. And in that testing process, if somebody says that it's a positive result, that the malware does exist or someone has coronavirus, but they actually don't, if malware doesn't exist, then we call that a false negative. The testing says it's not there, but it actually is. So a false positive is going to be exactly the opposite. If someone were to say, oh, I've been tested for the coronavirus and I have it, but they actually didn't, then that would be a false positive. So what were the other two? You almost never hear the other ones. So a true positive means whatever test you're doing, tested, said it was positive, and it's right. So people are like, well, how do you know it's a true positive or a false positive? You don't. There's no way to tell, usually until much later on something like this. Well, I tested for the coronavirus, I wasn't sick. So I went out to a nightclub and now they're all coughing and can't taste anything. Well, that might be a clue, right? Or is it smell? I forget. And we have the same problem in IT. Like if I have an intrusion prevention set up, and that intrusion prevention were to say a false positive, it means it sees an incoming data stream and says there's a problem with it. That false positive is going to do something. It's going to stop it. But a false negative basically says, I've got a data stream coming in with malware in it, or it's doing something, or it's a denial of service, or whatever it is. With a false negative, I'm saying, it's fine, come on in. So here's the big question. If you're going to have false positives or false negatives, first of all, you don't want to have false positives or false negatives. You want to have true positives and true negatives, right? However, there is no device anywhere in the world of IT that is that perfect, okay? False positives, false negatives are part and parcel of our daily life here in the world of IT security. So I have a question for you. If you have a choice between having a false positive or a false negative, which would you prefer? All right, the answer to me is I would much prefer false positives. With a false positive, I'm being less trusting. I am doing things about stuff that isn't there. A false negative means I'm letting stuff through that I shouldn't. So does that help? Andre's got a test tomorrow. Good luck, man. Brennan, I'm A+, Net+, and currently working on Security+. What would be the next cert after Security? I'm looking for SOC positions, so I don't know what to take next. Actually, Brennan, at first, you don't need... You should be working. You stop considering certifications and now go for a job. Brennan, there's no reason that somebody with an A+, Net+, and Security+ cannot find gainful employment, especially in today's society. I can certainly say that for the United States. I don't know how it is all over the world, but here in the States, if somebody walked up with an A+, Net+, and Security+, and they weren't getting a job, I would start going, what are they doing wrong? Are they interviewing badly? Do they refuse to do certain kinds of work? Do they refuse to move? Do they only want to work on Saturdays from 2 to 7? Most of the time when I hear about people who can't get a job, they have created limiting factors that really aren't the issue. So the right answer for you is you should probably stop going for certifications and pick up your job seeking effort harder. The problem is after you get the trifecta, as I call it, A+, Net+, Security+, you have to start doing some research. Where do you want to go? There is no linear path after Security+. There's 100 different routes to take. You have to start finding where your passions are. You say you want to work at a SOC, so you might be getting really good at certain tool sets. Improving your skill sets on certain tool sets could be one way to go. Something you've been using there. You see where I'm coming from? Get a job. All right, man, it is already 2:30. Goodness sakes, things are going so fast. Nikash is offering good South African wine. Oh, I gotta tell you, man, I miss wine. I've been like not drinking hardly at all to start cutting weight. I miss good wine. I miss good wine like a lot. Josh Dope. I don't get why people complain. I don't know if people complain. Let me do the double quotation marks. Complain. They want their voucher. They want a competition. They want their voucher. There's no evil in that. It's just that we have zero control. It can be a little frustrating. All right, I'm going to go ahead and stop here for a moment. 2:26 is where I'm going to pick back up. So the first thing I want to do is talk about a big issue. So I don't even remember who it was. Somebody was asking me a question. They're like, Mike, talk to me about mGRE versus Mpls. All right, I know what Mpls is off the top of my head. mGRE was some kind of tunneling thing. So anyway, I've been putting them off. But what really bothered me is why would they be comparing mGRE versus Mpls? Why would someone form the question that way? Folks, I'm sorry. I am into adult learning, and things like this are very, very interesting to me. So what we're going to do here is I want you guys to watch. This is a quick little presentation that discusses a big problem we run into, especially when we're trying to learn any any certification. You can be a nursing certification. There's certain problems you run into when you do stuff on your own. And so let's take a look at this. So what I'm going to start off with is, this is from the Network Plus, the current Network Plus N10008 exam. And I want to take a look at Objective 1.2. So here's there we go. So here's Objective 1.2. And under 1.2 it says, explain the characteristics of network topologies and network types. Okay? So, if we take a look at this, we've got this header. Oh, and folks, people are acting confused. These are the actual objectives as published by CompTIA for the current Network Plus exam, the N10008. I'm trying to show you guys an example of something that gets people into a lot of trouble when they're studying for any certification. Okay, just felt I had to reiterate that. Okay. So underneath here, you'll see it says network types and characteristics. And then underneath that, we got all of these different things underneath there. Okay? Peer-to-peer, client-server, LANs, MANs, WLANs, PANs, all that stuff. All right, so let's clean this up a little bit and just zero in on this one header. Network types and characteristics. Now take a look at this with me, people. First of all, is peer-to-peer and client-server a network type? I'm going to argue and say it isn't. I would argue that it's a topology. It's a logical topology, but a topology, but whatever. And then we have all these LANs and MANs and WANs and PANs and CANs. I should have skipped SAN, but I'm going to leave it in here for now. So these are different types of networks: local area networks, wide area networks, metropolitan area networks, campus area networks. All right. However, in fact, we could throw this in here. The ones, wireless local area network is just a LAN, but it's wireless. And then beneath that is software-defined wide area network, was just a WAN, except it's based purely in the cloud. So I'm going to go ahead and add those in. Now look at the bottom here. We got multi-protocol label switching, MPLS, and endpoint generic routing encapsulation, or mGRE. One of the biggest frustrations I get from readers and viewers is that, Mike, why don't you teach, in this case Network Plus, based on the objective list? And here's an example. Because peer-to-peer doesn't have diddly to do with MAN or WAN. And multi-protocol level switching is really a routing methodology, as is mGRE. So when we take a look at this, here, let's look at this one more time. When you look at this, you'll see up at the top here it says network types and characteristics. Do you see that? Because you're going to start thinking, oh, well, these are official terms that we always use at any time. Peer-to-peer and client server is a network type. Folks, I have got example PDFs of every other Network Plus objective, and they used to call them topologies. You can't take this stuff as like some gospel. In fact, the person who asked me the question was like, Mike, what's MPLS versus mGRE? Versus mGRE. They're complete different animals. Here, watch what I'm talking about here, all right? So it's not that complicated from here. I mean, the problem is these are just apples and oranges. There are different things to talk about that. However, we can go ahead because the question was, Mike, please contrast mGRE versus MPLS. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. mGRE, or multipoint GRE, this came from GRE, which was a Cisco, it still is, it's a tunneling protocol. And it supports all the different layer 3 point-to-point protocols like PPTP and IPsec, and its main job is to provide secure communication with Cisco equipment. The reality is that if you're not using Cisco equipment or not trying to communicate with Cisco equipment, you're probably not going to use generic routing protocol. Generic routing, oh, I think I got a typo in there somewhere. Generic routing encapsulation, GRE, sorry. Guess who's a big active member of CompTIA? Cisco, that's right, okay? So what you're looking at here, when you see questions like this or objectives like this, they're going to be very definitional. They want to know why. And the reason that the generic routing encapsulation exists at all is to provide a secure tunnel between 2 points. And the best thing we could do for that is you want to make secure links between a main router and then a subsidiary router, because you want to type in the username and password for that router. We don't want people to see that. GRE is your friend. So if you want to make point-to-point tunnels, you want to do an IPsec tunnel, you want to do a PPT tunnel, probably do L2TP. This is all under GRE. So GRE is great for making point-to-point tunnels, which may or may not be encrypted, whatever you want to do. The problem you run into is that there's situations where one point-to-point is a problem. A lot of times we're in a situation where you have one device that needs to talk to a whole bunch of devices at once, basically sending one command and hoping all the other devices will see it. And that's where multipoint GRE comes into play. So multipoint GRE is a point-to-multipoint version of GRE that enables a single Cisco device to terminate a whole bunch of tunnels. So it's a great way for a hub device to send data to specific and multiple Cisco devices. One example of the place where mGRE would be used is secure updating for dynamic routing. So if you're running OSPF on a router or something, you got other routers. So you got a main OSPF router, you got 4 or 5 other routers underneath that. By using mGRE, it could do a point-to-multipoint, and everything will be in nice encrypted tunnels. That's it. Okay, so let's go ahead and now let's talk about, we talked about multi-point GRE. Come on. Let's talk about MPLS. All right. So MPLS, the only thing that mGRE has to do with MPLS is that MPLS is sort of a, I wouldn't say it's tunneling. It's a switching protocol. It's a switching protocol that reduces overhead in your routes by using unique MPLS labels instead of IP addresses. Packets will route between an MPLS, let me say it better. Packets route between MPLS capable routers on specific routes defined by your ISP. Look, the bottom line is that sometimes you've got real high bandwidth needs, okay? And when you have high bandwidth needs, back in the old days, you had to install your own OC3 line or whatever it be. You literally had to pay the phone company to pull a line from one place to the next. You couldn't just use the regular internet for big high bandwidth needs. Anybody who's ever tried to back up a desktop computer to the cloud appreciates that. So what you got to do instead, when you really need the bandwidth and you're ready to pay for it, we have this thing called MPLS. MPLS it's called layer 2.5 because it kind of runs between layer 2 and layer 3. The idea with MPLS is one single internet service provider will set up preset routes between your machine, your different high bandwidth networks. We'll make these pre-configured routes, and you get very little latency with MPLS. It speeds things up. So not only are you getting a big pipe, but with MPLS you get really good latency between the two connections. The downside is that MPLS is popular, but MPLS is wildly expensive. But for a long time, it was really, if you wanted to connect like two data centers together, you'd either have to use a dedicated line back in the day, or you would use MPLS, which is what we saw more and more today. However, the cloud has changed all this and has created something more interesting. So with the cloud, what we have now are software-defined WANs. So a software-defined WAN is basically an entire wide area network which sits on a cloud someplace. And so you have virtualized servers, virtualized routers, virtualize, everything defined by software. And we put our high bandwidth endpoints up into the cloud. So we're no longer limited by physical distances. MPLS doesn't make a lot of sense when you can just connect boy, I need to spell check this thing. When you could just connect your endpoints directly to the Sd-Wan and own all of your connections. So when you got a cloud, you got, not only do you have servers up there, but you have LANs up there. You have LANs that are being interconnected by software-defined routers. Then why should I go spend a lot of money using MPLS when basically I just create direct connections? And you guys got to keep in mind that when you're setting up systems on a cloud, you're defining physically where do those systems exist. And like, let's use Amazon because that's the one I know best. So with S3, you literally define roughly where it is. And it's not so important where it is. It's what's more important is that where are all the other things. And if you put them all together in the same physical space, it's not physical space in their own, I forget the term that Amazon uses for their instances. There's a better name. Anyway, the bottom line is that you don't have to deal with MPLS or anything else. You just put up your own SD router and connect between them. All right. So really, mGRE and MPLS are not things we would compare to. What we do instead is we'd compare, for example, SD-WAN versus MPLS, which is a big topic these days and has been for a few years. You'd think with everybody moving to the cloud that MPLS would be gone, but it's actually, there's some compelling arguments to keep MPLS around. All right, I think are we done? Are we through there? Yes, okay. Dun, 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 dun. All right. So the thing I want to stress to you guys is that When you're looking at objectives, don't give CompTIA more than what's there. Total Seminars, in fact, even my publisher, McGraw-Hill, had a huge issue with this because they would take these little terms that CompTIA would use, like network types, and they would go like, oh, these are all network types. Well, I would say a LAN is a network type. I'd say a PAN is a network type, but a lot of those aren't. And this is where people get into a lot of trouble when, number one, they go, well, I'm going to just read a book or watch a video based on the objectives. Somebody who would teach it that way would prove to me that they don't know what they're talking about. That would make me very nervous. And then the second thing is, this is an argument for having, pre-made training materials. Me and the guys, we dismantle these objectives and trying to learn and understand. So that might be something you want to keep in mind as well. All right, so I'm going to get some... time is going so fast today. Oh! I got to do an A+ question. Folks, we're about to have our first competition. In this competition, we are going to choose who gets to win a 90-day free access to the practice questions of their choice. This is the Total Tester product. I'm going to use an A+ question. It's probably going to be a little too easy, but because I'm busily rewriting the A+ book right now, this is kind of an interesting question. Folks, in order to win, you have to write the correct answer into the chat window. This is a multiple choice question. Do not type A, B, C, D, or E. Type the answers out. Type them out at least so that I can understand what you're trying to say. I'm not going to get you on stuff like that, but let's go ahead and do this. This is one of these questions where a lot of you guys are going to look at it and think you're right and you're going to be wrong. Remember, guys, first person to put the answers on there in the chat window wins. You guys ready? Here we go. 3, 2, 1, go. Which are found in BIOS? Choose 2. Services, power on self-test, CMOS battery, explanation of post-hex codes, real-time clock, and good power wire. It's power good wire, but that's okay. Which of these are found in BIOS? In fact, I'm going to make it easier on you guys, and I'm going to say, which of the following are found in a standard system BIOS on a motherboard? Well, it'll still get us there. All right, I'll give folks a moment to try to answer that. Where are we at? 225. Okay, we got lots of people answering. Eamon Ferrara, unfortunately. Eamon, it's 2 answers, not just 1. Steve G, do not type in the letters. You have to type out the answer itself. Vegas Brent, services. All right, so I think I got a winner here, but I'm pretty sure the answer is going to be services and the power on self-test. These are things that exist in a system BIOS. CMOS battery is a physical thing. Explanation of post-hex codes, that would come on a postcard. Real-time clock is also a physical thing that sits there, and a good power wire comes on a power supply. So I'm pretty sure it's going to be services and post. Oh, by the way, folks, this is actually the Total Tester tool. Your current answers of A and B are correct. All right, so Dave Rush, I'm just going to go ahead and do this one. Guys, I'm going to give this to Vegas Brent. Vegas Brent, congratulations. You have won 90-day free access to the Total Seminars practice questions of your choice. You get to choose, okay? Now, if you want to grab these questions, well, young person, you're going to have to jump through a couple hoops. Number 1, who was it again? Vegas Brent. Vegas Brent, number 1, you've got to send an email to my buddy Dave R at TotalSem.com. In that email, put your YouTube name, put your email address, and then put which practice exam you want. And please type out that as exactly as you want. For example, if someone were to say, I want Network Plus, we'd have to go back and say, would you want the Network Plus 007 or the 008? Because they're both administered right now. So be sure to give Dave the information that he needs. It's a thankless job that Dave does very, very well, and we sure do appreciate that. Okay. Cool you. All right. Daniel Ocampo, Mike, moved to Sonoma County for the best. Well, Sonoma's pretty good. Just last year, I was sitting on a ridge between Napa and Sonoma, just watching the fires. Yeah, I left Napa for Corona and fires. Literally driving on the road east out of Sacramento, and the highway itself was on fire. It was a little terrifying. We got out of there. Daniel Ocampo, can you go over 802.1x? I can give you a little bit. Okay, so back in the 90s, when they first started to come out, or aughts, I guess, back in the aughts where 802.11 first started to come out, they tried all kinds of security stuff, and it was a disaster. And I'm not going to go into all the web hacking and all that kind of stuff. Bottom line was, it was probably by 2004, 2005 that the wireless industry knew that they screwed up. So they wanted to come up with a much better authentication than the passphrase that was used in WEP. So what they did is they came out with a new standard called 802.11x. Not 802.1x, 802.11x. 802.11x had better encryptions. That's where things like WPA, WPA2 came from, all that kind of stuff. But the big thing was authentication. People always forget about this with wireless networks. So if I set some wireless access point up on this thing, who do I want accessing that? Well, basically, if you think about SOHO level wireless, whoever has a passcode can get on the wireless network. Is that good? Well, it depends. If you've got a coffee shop, it's probably good. But what if you have like a high security and you don't want somebody walking in and just getting on your wireless network? So you can go through authentication, where you take, like, for example, a username and a password just to connect to the wireless network, just to get a DHCP. You get the idea? And so this is more enterprise level wireless. But the idea was to come up with an existing standard for dial-up. It was actually originally for dial-up called 802.1x. 802.1x is a very old protocol, and the only thing that 802.1x does is it creates a way for, in this particular example, a wireless client and a wireless access point to negotiate how they're going to authenticate with each other. Because you and I think, oh, to authenticate, I'll type in a username and password. They don't know that. Or what if you want to use certificates? What if you want to use retinal scanners or whatever? 802.1x is just a protocol, and then inside that protocol, so it's kind of like a tunnel, but it's not really a tunnel. So in there, it could be, gosh, I'm forgetting them all. So this is why I don't like EAP protocol. I can't remember them all off the top of my head. Anyway, so 802.1x supports the communication between the people who want to authenticate you and the people who want to get authenticated. So they can talk to each other. So the wireless client can go up to the WAP and go, hey man, how do I get authenticated? And it'll stub back and say, well, you need a username and password. Okay, I got that. Or it goes, well, you need a username and password, but you also have to have a certificate. People are like, what? Certificates? That's just for the web. No, it ain't. You go to a lot of high security US government facilities, every phone, every laptop, anybody who's wireless, they put certificates in it. That's called EAP TLS. I might be lying to you, so be careful there. EAP TLS is just uses a server-side certificate. EAP MD5 just basically uses a hash. There's all these different things. So 802.1x is just a carrier for all these different EAP, Extensible Authentication Protocol methodologies. So you can actually program a wireless access point to be able to accept all kinds of different authentications based on the need of that particular network. That's it. That's what 802.1x is. Logan Bennett. Studying and being exposed to how the internet networks were created really shows how loosely the terms are used. This is absolutely true. Unless you see something listed as part of a RFC or part of a standard like 802.1x, phrases and terms are very flexible. And I can't tell you how many times CompTIA has used terms on the exams that were just wrong. I mean, they weren't evil wrong, and people knew what they meant. CompTIA does a lot better job than it was doing 20 years ago, that's for sure. But it does happen. Alex is here. Hey, Alex, good to see you. Steve from Canada. Andre, don't like the cloud. I love the cloud. I think it's fantastic. All right, so I guess we're all sticking around because we want to try to win the, it looks, all right, looks like Dave Rush is handling a question, so I'm going to just skip over that one. Okay, man, can you believe it's almost 3 o'clock already? I literally just blinked. So I need to get another question queued up. Folks, let's get ready. I'm going to do A+ because I got A+. Too easy. I'm looking for another question. Bear with me. Come on, man. All right, I got one. This is A+ hardware, guys. All right, so we're now about to compete for the CompTIA voucher, okay? Now, let's make sure we understand a few things here. Number one, it can take a few weeks to get it delivered to you, so be patient, please. Secondarily, we are not in control of the delivery on these. It's CompTIA, so we do the best we can. But if you don't get it, yelling at us isn't going to help an iota. And we're nervous. We don't want to keep bothering CompTIA because you're in a hurry. So we'll do it the best we can. I know of no one who has not gotten their voucher, although for a number of people, it took like a month, especially y'all who live in the EU or thereabouts. South Africa, I don't even know. All right, with all these caveats in mind, also do keep in mind, folks, just because you think you're the first person to answer it, that may not necessarily be true. Me, Dave Rush, and Andrew Hutz are the ultimate arbitrators. Also, because I don't want people jumping in here and then like winning 3 vouchers in a row. So what we do, and I'm sorry, I know I'd love to, but I don't have that many vouchers. So if you're a newbie, if I haven't seen you before, I tend to weight it towards you a little bit more. So if there's somebody who's won a voucher and then you're right beneath them, you're probably going to be the one to win, not the person who's already won a voucher. If you've already won a voucher, I'm not saying don't compete. Either put the word pass or throw it in. Look, I mean, I'm not against giving more than one voucher. I just don't want to do a bunch of them. So here we go. You guys ready? This is an A+ hardware question. What kind of audio connector provides digital audio output? A, SPDIF, B, main speaker connector, C, silver gray connector, D, a microphone connector. Remember, do not type A, B, C, or D, folks. Type out enough of the answer that I know what you're talking about. All right, I see lots of people posting. Oh, shoot. I gave it away. I hope you guys didn't see what I wrote. I said, help, because so many people answered so quickly. I literally have about 1,000 of you horse racers won. So I had to put that up. I'm waiting for Dave Rush to help me get the right answer. Oh, I'm sorry. Wait. I messed up a little bit here. Wait a minute here. All right, so the answer is SPDIF. Make sure that's right. Answer is correct. Excelente. So the answer is SPDIF. So let's go ahead and find the right answer. Man, Dave Rush and Andrew Hutz, I literally exposed our back channel to everybody. Thank God we didn't type anything too questionable in there. All right. Okay, winners. Okay, we do have a winner. All right. Thanks again to our judges. Okay, so the winner is going to be Steve G, G-E-E. Steve G, congratulations to you. You have won yourself a CompTIA voucher. This CompTIA voucher works anywhere in the world. If you live in a country that administers the CompTIA exams, you can use this. So feel free to jump on that. However, in order to get your prize, you got to, of course, jump through a few small hoops. So here's what you got to do. Number one, Steve G, send an email to davr@totalsem.com. In that, be sure to put your YouTube name, just like it shows in chat. So put Steve G with the lowercase everything. Next, put your email address in the body of the email. Number three, give us your name you used on previous CompTIA certifications. If you've never taken a CompTIA exam before, then just use your legal name. And also, if you're off by a little bit, it's not going to be a big panic. It just makes you easier to find. Next, put your country of residence. If you're in the USA, add your state. Then put the country where you will take the exam. For most of us, that's the same country of residence, but you never know. And then last, put the exact exam number. Don't just type A+, for example, but type A+, 220-1002, not just A+. Congratulations to you, Steve G. I knew you were complaining a couple weeks ago that you didn't win. You can no longer make that complaint because you are now the winner. Well done to you, Steve G. Okay, folks, it is already 3:03. I am out the door today. Don't forget, this Friday is the Dave Rush AMA, D-R-A-M-A, drama. And Dave always has a great class. Dave also gives away vouchers. So if anybody's crabby, you didn't win a voucher, it's just you got to come back a few times. May the odds always be, what was that, the Hunger Games? But just come back, and we'd love to have you come back, and we will do a great job for you. All right, so that is all I've got for today, folks. I am out of here. Y'all be good, have fun, and I will see you next Monday. Until then, it's your Uncle Mikey saying bye-bye. Bye-bye.